Big news has now arrived on Gunners. You want to know all the details, so follow me until the end of the video. But first, if you are in love with Arsenal, show your love and subscribe to THE channel now and turn on notifications. Here we post daily news and behind the scenes of the biggest club in THE Premier League, Arsenal. Thank you. Paul Scholes and Jamie Carragher missed the mark in mocking Victor Gyökeres over silly jeans comment. Paul Scholes and Jamie Carragher recently had a laugh at Victor Gyökeres' expense, but when you take a closer look at their comments and the reasoning behind them, it's clear they've completely missed the point. In today's football culture, thoughtful analysis often gives way to viral soundbites, moments crafted more to provoke reactions than to provide insight. Arsenal, perhaps more than any other club, tends to be the primary target of this approach. And with a fan base that passionately defends its own, it's no surprise that comments like these strike a nerve. Enter Gyökeres, the new Arsenal striker, recently signed to solve the club's long-standing need for a clinical number 9. But instead of focusing on his actual footballing qualities, we're somehow talking about his hair and jeans? Yes, seriously. On a recent episode of The Overlap, a rival fan took a cheap shot, saying Gyökeres looks like his modelling jeans, prompting loud laughter from Carragher and Scholes. It was a childish jab, the kind that would barely pass as banter in a pub, let alone on a national platform. But here's the thing, Gyökeres isn't just some unknown forward. He's been the top scorer in Europe across the last 2 seasons. He's returning to English football after dominating in Portugal, and he's only just getting started in an Arsenal shirt. He responded to the earlier criticism about his appearance in the best way possible, with a brace against Leeds United and a cheeky hair flip celebration to match. Yet, somehow, he's still being treated as a punchline. The irony is rich, coming from Scholes and Carragher, 2 pundits who have spent the last year insisting Arsenal must sign a proper striker. In January, Scholes claimed that having someone like Isaac or John Duran up front would elevate Martin Degarde's game. And Carragher, back in November 2023, openly questioned whether Arsenal had the right goalkeeper or striker to win the league. Spoiler alert, David Raya went on to win back-to-back Golden Gloves. So maybe, just maybe, it's worth pumping the brakes before writing off another key figure in Arteta's evolving project. What makes this kind of mockery even more frustrating is how premature it is. Gyökeres has only played 3 matches in red and white. He hasn't had a real chance to settle into the Premier League yet, and already the narrative is being written, not about his goals, movement, or potential impact, but about his genes. Let's not forget Arteta's words in Amazon's All or Nothing. The media is often quick to build a player up only to tear them down. And sadly, it seems we're watching that unfold in real time with Gyökeres. The reality is this: Victor Gyökeres doesn't need to prove himself with soundbites or fashion choices. He needs to do it with goals, and he has a proven track record of doing just that. If his response to early criticism is any indication, he won't let the noise distract him. He'll let his football speak loudest. And when he does, those laughs from Scholes and Carragher might just age about as well as their early takes on David Raya. What's even more revealing is how quickly the football media machine moves to undermine players who don't immediately fit the Premier League's narrow mold of success. Gyökeres, despite being one of Europe's most consistent scorers, is already being judged more on superficial impressions and throwaway jokes than on his actual footballing contributions. And let's be honest, if Gyökeres were English, or had come from a more glamorous league, the narrative might be very different. There's an unspoken bias in how certain players are covered. Some are given time to adapt, patience to settle, and space to grow. Others, like Gyökeres, are thrown into the spotlight with unfair expectations and even less fair criticisms. Yet for Arsenal fans, this isn't new territory. They've seen this movie before. Remember when Gabriel Jesus was dismissed as a squad player at Manchester City, only to become one of the most dynamic forwards in the league when given a lead role? Or when William Saliba was called a risk after returning from loan, only to become one of the best defenders in Europe within a season? The pattern is clear: doubt first, praise later. And now, Gyökeres finds himself in the same cycle. The difference is, he already has the mentality to thrive under that pressure. His response to the Leeds criticism wasn't just a celebration, it was a message. A calm, confident reminder that he's been here before, and he knows exactly how to silence doubters. Still, the noise continues. Online, clips of the jeans comment have been shared widely, sparking heated debate between fans and pundits alike. Arsenal supporters have rushed to defend their new number 9, while others pile on with memes and mockery. But beyond the banter, There's a deeper conversation to be had about the role of punditry in shaping narratives. When respected voices like Carragher and Scholes choose cheap laughs over meaningful analysis, they risk becoming part of the very media cycle that hinders players instead of helping them. It also speaks to a larger issue, the way we measure success in football. Gyökeres doesn't come with flashy branding or a social media empire, he just scores goals. But in today's game, that's often not enough to escape criticism, especially when you're wearing an Arsenal shirt. And make no mistake, the expectations at Arsenal are sky high. After pushing Manchester City to the wire last season, the pressure is on Mikel Arteta's side to finally take the next step. Gyökeres was brought in to be part of that push, and he knows he'll be judged quickly, fairly or not. But maybe that's exactly what he needs. Fuel. If he uses the criticism the same way he did in Portugal, as motivation, as fire, then Arsenal might have found not just a goalscorer, but a fighter. A player who doesn't just rise to the occasion, but thrives when people tell him he can't. As the season unfolds, the spotlight will stay firmly on Gyökeres. Every touch, every miss, every goal will be analysed and debated. And while the pundits may still look for cheap laughs, he'll have a far more powerful comeback, putting the ball in the back of the net. And when that happens, it won't be his hairstyle or his jeans anyone's talking about. It'll be his impact, the kind you can't ignore, even if you tried. 8 players could miss Arsenal versus Nottingham Forest as Mikel Arteta's injury situation becomes clearer. As Arsenal prepare to face Nottingham Forest this weekend, both sides could be without a number of key players, with Mikel Arteta once again navigating a growing injury list early in the campaign. Despite the season being only a few weeks old, Arsenal have already had to deal with setbacks in nearly every match. So far, no game has gone by without at least one injury concern, a worrying trend that Arteta knows all too well from last season, when Arsenal led the Premier League in injury numbers, with 27 separate issues across the squad. Now, ahead of the Forest clash, up to 6 first-team players could be unavailable for the Gunners, while Forest are dealing with their own share of absences. Mixed news for Arsenal. The international break has come as both a blessing and a challenge. With many players away representing their countries, Arteta has had to work with a reduced group at London Coney. For those carrying knocks or recovering from recent injuries, the break has offered much-needed recovery time. Among the brighter updates is the progress of Ben White, who appears to be nearing full fitness. The right-back was forced off in the season opener against Manchester United and has been gradually working his way back. With Jurrien Timber impressing in his absence, White might face tough competition for his starting place, but upcoming matches in the Champions League and Carabao Cup could provide the perfect window for his return. Bukayo Saka is also on the mend after a thigh issue picked up during match week 2. Although his recovery is going well, the Forest game may come just a bit too soon for him, and with a long season ahead, Arsenal won't want to risk rushing him back. William Saliba's situation remains somewhat unclear. French media reports suggested a 2 to 3 week absence following an ankle injury sustained during the warm-up against Liverpool. Arteta later confirmed that Saliba twisted his ankle but didn't provide a timeline. While those initial reports are being taken cautiously, Christian Mosquera has already shown he can step up when needed. With a huge match against Manchester City on the horizon, it's unlikely Arsenal will risk their star defender unless he's fully ready. Christian Norgård, still waiting to make his first appearance, remains sidelined with a minor issue. Arteta was tight-lipped on the details after the win at Old Trafford, only calling it something small, though no return date has been given. Further down the list, Gabriel Jesus and Kai Havertz continue their rehab from longer-term injuries. Havertz is expected back before Jesus, and both are hopeful to return before the end of the calendar year. Nottingham Forest also hit by injuries. Forest, meanwhile, are also feeling the sting. Nicolas Dominguez remains out indefinitely after suffering a serious meniscus injury, a major blow to their midfield options. Defender Ola Aina is another doubt after being forced to play for Nigeria while nursing a suspected thigh injury. The club is monitoring his condition, and there's a real chance he could miss the weekend trip to the Emirates. Arteta's challenge. For Mikel Arteta, the story remains a familiar one, managing expectations and squad depth amid an injury crisis. Fortunately, this summer's transfer window gave Arsenal a more robust squad, built to withstand the kinds of absences that derailed last season's title challenge. But even so, the early season absences are a reminder that no squad is immune to disruption. If Arsenal are to maintain their title ambitions, they'll need every player fit and firing, and sooner rather than later. For now, though, it's all about navigating the short term. And with 8 players potentially sidelined, Arteta may need to get creative once again. The bigger picture for Arsenal. While the immediate concern is simply getting through the Forest match with 3 points, there are broader implications at play, especially with a demanding fixture schedule on the horizon. Arsenal's upcoming calendar includes crucial matches in the Champions League group stage, a Carabao Cup fixture, and the all-important Premier League showdown against Manchester City. That makes Arteta's squad depth, and his ability to rotate without compromising quality, more vital than ever. The absence of attacking options like Gabriel Jesus and Kai Havertz places even greater pressure on players like Eddie Nketiah, Leandro Trossard, and the newly signed Victor Gyökeres, who is still finding his rhythm in English football. Gyökeres in particular has come under scrutiny despite limited minutes, and with Arteta likely to manage soccer's load carefully, the Swedish striker could see increased responsibility in the coming weeks. In midfield, the lack of Christian Norgård continues to limit Arteta's ability to rotate and protect key starters like Declan Rice and Martin Degaard, especially as European commitments begin. While Norgård's issue is minor, any delay in his return could prove costly in terms of long-term fatigue. Defensively, William Saliba's absence could once again test the resilience of Arsenal's backline, something that ultimately cost them dearly in last season's title race. While Mosquera has shown promising signs, stepping into Saliba's role against the likes of Forest, and potentially City, is a huge ask. Still, there is a growing sense of belief around the Emirates. The club is far better prepared for adversity this season, thanks to smarter squad building and a more balanced rotation of experience and youth. Arteta himself has matured as a manager, learning from the intense scrutiny and pressure of the previous campaign. Nottingham Forest facing uphill battle. For Nottingham Forest, the timing of these injuries couldn't be worse. After a summer of transition and restructuring, Forest are still trying to find consistency under Nuno Espirito Santo, who recently replaced Steve Cooper. The long-term absence of Nicolas Dominguez leaves a huge gap in midfield. Known for his work rate and tactical intelligence, Dominguez had been expected to be one of Forest's key players this season. Without him, Forest have been forced to rely more heavily on less experienced or less naturally defensive midfielders, something Arsenal will look to exploit with their technical dominance in the centre of the park. If Ola Aina is also ruled out, Forest's defensive options are stretched thin. Facing an Arsenal side that thrives on wide play and overlapping fullbacks, missing a versatile defender like Aina could be especially damaging. Add to that the challenge of playing at the Emirates Stadium, where Arsenal have turned into a fortress, and Forest will need to produce something special to leave North London with any points. Repercussions beyond the weekend. Looking ahead, the outcome of this match could shape momentum for both teams. For Arsenal, dropping points at home, particularly against a mid-table opponent, would raise immediate concerns about their ability to sustain a title challenge amid injury trouble. On the flip side, a dominant performance, even without key players, would reinforce the idea that this squad is better equipped than last year's to go the distance. For Forest, a heavy defeat could deepen questions about their tactical identity under Nuno and highlight the fragility of their squad depth. But a well-earned draw or shock win would send a strong message that they can compete with the league's elite, even when not at full strength. In either case, injuries are not just a side note, they're increasingly a central storyline in the Premier League's early season narrative. Final word. Mikel Arteta is no stranger to adversity. But if Arsenal are to turn potential into silverware this season, they'll need to do more than just survive injury spells, they'll need to thrive in spite of them. This weekend's match against Nottingham Forest may not seem like a blockbuster on paper, but in terms of timing, pressure, and available personnel, it's shaping up to be a defining moment in the Gunners' season, one that will test not only the depth of their squad, but the strength of their resolve.